The voices hit first. Sharp, mocking, bouncing off the empty gym walls. Young SEALs circled a man with a broom, their laughter thin but cutting. Phones were raised, red lights recording, every insult stacked higher, daring him to answer. But the old janitor never spoke. He kept his hands steady, as if the noise didn't touch him at all. One of them leaned closer, pressing harder, trying to break the silence. The others jeered, waiting for a crack, waiting for the old man to stumble. He didn't. Instead, when the light caught the base of his neck, something shifted in their faces. The camera stilled. The laughter faltered. Because what they saw there wasn't ordinary. It was the beginning of everything, and it all began long before sunrise. The gym lights hummed above the empty floor, steel plates lined in perfect order, chalk dust hanging faint in the air. It was 5:10 in the morning, and Miles Rooker pushed his broom along the mats, as if time itself couldn't touch him. The doors banged open. 3 men strode in, their voices loud against the stillness. Briggs Dalton led, tall, restless, sweat still damp on his shirt. Ortiz and Mace followed, smirking, carrying the kind of arrogance only youth could carry. Briggs stopped in front of the old man. "You're in our way," he said flat, like an order. Miles didn't answer. He kept sweeping, eyes down. Ortiz grinned, pulling out his phone. "Man, record this. Watch Grandpa pretend he can't hear." Briggs stepped closer, voice sharper. "I said move. This mat isn't for cleaning." The broom slid across rubber with a steady rasp. Miles still hadn't looked at him. "Unbelievable," Mace muttered. "Guy's deaf or stupid." Briggs jabbed the broom with his boot, knocking it sideways. "You understand English, old man?" At last, Miles straightened. His face was worn, but his eyes calm. He said one thing, his voice rough but steady. "Dust clogs lungs. Better clean before you train." Ortiz barked a laugh. "Health tips from Janitor Jesus." The phone stayed up, recording every second. Briggs leaned close enough for his breath to warm Miles's cheek. "You think this is funny? This is SEAL training ground. You don't belong here." Miles tilted his head just slightly. "I worked in places with less air than this. You'll survive a few minutes." Then he went back to sweeping. That line cut deeper than silence. Mace frowned, unsure now. Briggs's jaw tightened. He shoved a trash can, spilling wrappers across the floor. "Pick it up. That's your job, isn't it?" Miles crouched, collected each piece. No hurry, no complaint. When he bent, the collar of his coverall shifted. A shadow of ink, blurred but visible, peeked along his neck. Ortiz froze mid-laugh. "Wait, did you see that?" Briggs leaned in, but Miles adjusted the collar back before anyone could study it. His eyes flicked once toward Ortiz's phone, then away. Briggs wasn't letting go. "You hiding something, old man?" Miles stood tall now, broom back in his grip. His calm was unnerving. "I'm hiding nothing." Briggs shoved him hard in the shoulder. The broom clattered. Ortiz's phone wobbled as he cursed. Miles caught the broom before it hit the ground. He moved with a reflex so smooth it looked rehearsed. His grip reset. Posture squared. Briggs blinked. He hadn't expected resistance. "Thought so," he said quickly. But the words rang hollow. He turned to Mace and Ortiz, trying to pull laughter back. "This guy's a clown." Neither joined him. Ortiz lowered the phone slightly. Mace just shifted uncomfortably. Briggs cursed under his breath and turned back to Miles. "Let me make this real clear." He shoved again, harder. But Miles slid his foot, absorbed the push, and didn't budge. He didn't raise his hands, didn't even tense. His stillness was heavier than any blow. Then came the sound. A sharp metallic snap from the far rack. The collar pin slipped. 315 pounds of steel trembled on the bar. Ortiz turned, eyes wide. "Shit." Before the words finished, Miles had already moved. 2 steps, crouch, hand locking the bar. He snapped the pin back into place, steel slamming secure. The bar rattled once, then stilled. Silence followed, thicker than chalk dust. Briggs stared. He hadn't even seen the bar shift, but the janitor had caught it instantly. Ortiz lowered his phone, his grin gone. Mace swallowed hard. Miles brushed his palm against his coverall, his breathing steady, his face unchanged. Then he picked up the broom again. Briggs tried to laugh, but his voice cracked. Just lucky timing. No one laughed with him. The silence was no longer empty. It belonged to Miles now. The old man swept on, steady strokes across the mat. The room itself had tilted, and the young seals felt it in their bones. The weight bar had settled, but the silence it left behind cut deeper than steel. Ortiz slipped his phone into his pocket, eyes darting between Briggs and the janitor. Mace folded his arms and shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Only Briggs still stood tall, jaw tight, unwilling to let the old man win. "Lucky," Briggs muttered. "That's all it was." His tone carried further than he meant, bouncing against the rafters. Miles pushed the broom again, one slow, deliberate stroke. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Ortiz leaned toward Briggs. "Man, you saw that. He moved before I even blinked." Briggs snapped. "Shut it." Then louder, to the janitor. "I don't know who you think you are, but this isn't your floor. You're wasting our time." Miles turned his head, finally looking Briggs in the eye. His voice came low, steady. "Floor's clean now. Won't slow you down." That single line felt heavier than it should have. Briggs stepped closer, chest brushing Miles's shoulder. "You don't talk to me like that." Miles didn't back away. His grip on the broom didn't tighten, didn't tremble. He just stood. Ortiz raised his phone again, unable to resist. "Get this," he whispered. The camera blinked red. Briggs shoved the broom aside. The wood clattered against the mat. "Pick it up," he barked. Miles crouched, steady as ever, and retrieved it. As he bent, his collar shifted. For a second, the harsh lights caught a faint mark etched into the base of his neck. Ortiz zoomed in, screen trembling in his hand. "What the hell?" Briggs frowned. "Show me." The camera feed caught just enough, a faded curve of ink, blurred lines bending into something like a serpent. Briggs snorted. That's your big secret? A bad tattoo?" Miles straightened, tugging the collar back in place. His eyes met Briggs's again. Calm, centered. Briggs pressed harder. "What is it? Prison ink? Some biker gang mark? Don't act like you're special." Miles said nothing. He set the broom upright, resting both hands on the handle. Mace muttered. "Looks old. Real old." Ortiz whispered. "Not Navy standard. I'd know. I've seen every unit patch." "Don't be stupid," Briggs shot back. "It's just trash on skin." But his voice cracked on the last word. Miles's hand brushed his collar, almost unconsciously. And for a heartbeat, his gaze drifted away from the gym, away from Briggs, into a place none of them could follow. Salt water surged black in his vision. A harbor under a moonless sky, breath echoing through a regulator, each bubble threatening to betray them. A hand gripping a charge line, knuckles pale in the dark, a whisper in the water. Now or never. Who said and docked? Then it was gone. The gym snapped back. The broom was still in his hands, Briggs still in his face. "Answer me," Briggs demanded. "What's it mean?" Miles shook his head once. "It means nothing to you." Briggs shoved him hard in the chest. The broom rattled, nearly slipping. "Say it again," Briggs hissed. In one fluid motion, Miles shifted his stance. His left hand caught Briggs's wrist, turned it, locked it, released. It happened in less than a second. Briggs stumbled, stunned by the sudden emptiness of control. Ortiz gasped. "I got that on video." His phone shook, but the red light stayed on. Briggs flexed his wrist, pride wounded deeper than flesh. "Cheap trick," he growled. "Anybody can pull a move like that." Miles stood calm, breathing even. "Then you try." The words landed like stones. For a moment, Briggs didn't move. Mace cleared his throat. "Briggs, drop it. You're making yourself look—" "Shut up!" Briggs barked, voice cracking. He turned back to Miles. "You think this is some kind of game? You think you can walk around here with your little secrets and make us look stupid?" Miles tilted his head. "You don't need my help for that." The recruits around them stiffened. A few had gathered by the doorway, drawn by the noise. None spoke. Briggs's face flushed red. He shoved again, harder, both hands this time. Miles slid back half a step, then planted himself like stone. His grip didn't waver. He didn't strike back. His stillness was louder than violence. Ortiz lowered his phone slowly. His voice trembled. "Briggs, maybe he's not who we think he is." Briggs whipped around. "He's nothing, just a janitor." His words echoed, but less certain now. Miles's gaze never left him. "Janitors don't keep bars from crushing you. Janitors don't stop wrists before they break." The room quieted. Even Mace stared at the floor. Briggs clenched his fists. He opened his mouth, then shut it. The fight was slipping, and he felt it. To cover the silence, he turned on Ortiz. "Turn that off. Now." "Who've confirmed?" Ortiz hesitated, thumb hovering. The red light blinked. Miles finally moved, pushing the broom across the last strip of mat. Dust slid neatly into the pan. His voice came soft, almost a whisper. "Clean enough for you now?" Briggs glared, but the words caught in his throat. Mace muttered, "Let it go, man." But Briggs couldn't. He stepped forward again, forcing his presence against the old man's calm. "This isn't finished. You think you're better than us? We'll see what the chief says." Miles leaned the broom against the wall. He didn't flinch, didn't back away. "Then go tell him." The challenge wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was simple, stripped of fear. For the first time, Briggs faltered. His confidence cracked, and the recruits watching knew it. The air in the gym shifted. Silence no longer meant weakness. It meant control. And Miles Rooker held it, without a word more. The gym felt heavier than the weights stacked along its walls. Ortiz's phone was finally down, Mace silent, but Briggs still stood in the center of the mat, fists clenched. He wanted to take back control, to bury the embarrassment the old man had forced on him. The door banged open before he could speak. A warning siren echoed down the hallway, short and sharp. A trainer rushed in, face tense. "Who touched the rack safety?" he barked. No one answered. Eyes turned to Briggs, then flicked to Miles. The trainer scowled. "Someone explain now." "Everyone. But I want still." Briggs opened his mouth. But another voice cut through the air, lower, steadier, carrying authority that needed no volume. "Stand down." Boots struck the floor. Master Chief Cole Harrigan stepped into the gym. His presence alone shifted the room. The recruits straightened instinctively, even Briggs. Harrigan's gaze swept once across the floor, then locked onto the old man with the broom. He walked forward, slow, deliberate. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Miles didn't move. His hands rested on the broom handle, steady as stone. His eyes met Harrigan's, calm and unyielding. Briggs saw his chance. He jabbed a finger toward Miles. "Sir, he's the problem. He's provoking us. Interfering." "Quiet," Harrigan said. The single word cut Briggs short. The chief's eyes never left Miles. The recruits shifted nervously. None of them had ever seen Harrigan look at anyone that long. Finally, his gaze dropped to the old man's collar. "Show them," Harrigan said. Miles hesitated, then tugged the collar down just enough. The light caught the faded ink. A serpent, coiled tight around a broken anchor, etched deep into skin that had seen decades. The lines blurred with age, but the symbol radiated weight. Mace whispered, "That's not Navy." Ortiz swallowed hard. "No, that's something else." Briggs forced a laugh, desperate. "It's just a tattoo. Doesn't mean—" Harrigan turned on him like a storm. "Do you have any idea what you're looking at?" His voice carried a sharp edge that froze the recruits in place. Briggs faltered. "It's ink. Nothing more." "No," Harrigan said. "That mark isn't in your manuals. It isn't on any patch wall. It belongs to men who went where no record follows. Harbor Demolition Group 12. The name landed heavy. Ortiz blinked. "Never heard of them. You weren't meant to," Harrigan said. His eyes flicked back to Miles. "Classified missions, buried files, men who trained in silence, fought in silence, and vanished the same way." Briggs shook his head. "You expect us to believe this janitor was part of that? Censor had." Miles finally spoke, voice rough but even. "Believe what you want. Doesn't change what was done." Harrigan's jaw tightened. For a moment, his gaze softened, as if remembering something buried. Then he looked back at the recruits. "You think this is about cleaning floors? You mocked a man who carried more in silence than you ever will in your careers." Briggs tried to push back. "It could be fake. Anyone could—" "Enough," Harrigan snapped. He stepped closer, voice dropping low but sharper. "I saw that symbol once. Not in a book. Not on a wall. On a man who died saving others, carrying charges under a black tide. That serpent and anchor mean sacrifice. They mean survival where none was expected." The recruits froze. None of them dared breathe. Harrigan's words pulled Miles back. For a split second, memory surged. A night harbor, water black as oil, the pulse of explosives wired to pylons. His hands young, steady, clamping fuses. The sting of salt in his eyes. The whisper of teammates who never surfaced again. Tide Glass, 72. One mission. One night. A lifetime carved into ink. The memory faded. Miles straightened, eyes back on Harrigan. No theatrics, no explanation. Only the weight of truth. Ortiz's phone slipped from his hand. It hit the floor with a dull thud. Nobody moved to pick it up. Briggs's face had drained of color. He looked from Miles to Harrigan, struggling to find ground. "Sir, we didn't know." "That's the point," Harrigan cut in. "You didn't ask. You mocked. You judged a man by a broom, not by what he's carried. And now you'll remember this lesson for the rest of your lives." Briggs lowered his eyes, his fists unclenched, arms falling limp at his sides. The defiance that had burned all morning crumbled into shame. Miles leaned the broom back against the wall. "I didn't come here for respect," he said softly. "I came to do my job." Harrigan gave a single nod. "And you've done more than that." The recruits stood frozen in their own silence. No one dared laugh, no one dared record. They only watched as the old man bent, gathered the last scraps of trash, and brushed them into the pan. Briggs finally spoke, voice almost a whisper. "I'm sorry." The words felt foreign in his mouth, but real. Miles glanced at him once, then turned back to his work. No anger, no gloating, just steady silence. Harrigan faced the recruits one last time. "Strength isn't the loudest man in the room. It's the one who stands when no one else can." He let the words hang heavy, then added, "Remember this morning. Remember him." No one argued. No one dared. Miles lifted the broom, shoulders straight, and walked toward the exit. The recruits parted without a word, like a tide giving way to a ship. His steps were slow, steady, and final. At the door, Harrigan gave him a nod, sharp and deliberate. Miles returned it, a soldier's recognition without rank, without fanfare. Then he was gone, swallowed by the quiet hall. The recruits stayed frozen long after. Briggs lowered his head, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Ortiz kicked his phone aside, ashamed. Mace rubbed his jaw, whispering to no one. "We had no idea." The silence didn't fade. It deepened. The gym felt changed, as if history itself had walked through and left a mark they'd never forget. The door closed behind Miles. The silence he left behind felt heavier than the weights stacked along the walls. Briggs stood frozen, face drained of color. His wrist still tingled where the old man had locked it, not from pain, but from the memory of being controlled so easily. He glanced at Ortiz and Mace, searching for an anchor, but found only their own shame staring back. Ortiz bent and picked up his phone from the floor. The screen was still glowing. The video paused mid-frame. Miles's hand catching the bar, the blur of motion too fast for mockery. He stared at it, then without a word, deleted the file. "Never happened," he muttered. No one argued. Harrigan's boots struck the floor as he turned back to them. His gaze landed on Briggs, cold and unyielding. "You wanted to prove something today." His voice was quiet, but it cut deeper than shouting. "Congratulations. You proved you don't know strength when it's standing right in front of you." Briggs's throat tightened. "Sir, save it." Harrigan stepped closer. "This isn't about apologies. It's about what you carry forward. That man could have broken you in half. Instead, he saved a bar from crushing you and swept your floor without a word." His eyes swept across all three recruits. "Remember that, the next time you think loudness means power." The words settled like stones. Briggs nodded, jaw tight, but his defiance had burned out completely. "Yes, Chief." Mace shifted toward the chalkboard near the exit. Among the training schedules and equipment lists, someone had drawn a crude symbol in white chalk, a serpent coiled around a broken anchor. The lines were rough, uneven, but unmistakable. "He left that," Mace whispered. Harrigan followed his gaze. For a moment, his expression softened not with pity, but with something closer to reverence. "No," he said quietly. "You'll leave that. As a reminder of what you learned today." The recruits stared at the chalk mark. None of them moved to erase it. Briggs stepped closer to the board, his hand hovering near the symbol but not touching it. His voice came out rough. "I thought I knew what a warrior looked like." He paused, swallowing hard. "I was wrong." Ortiz slid his phone into his bag. "We all were." The gym slowly came alive again. Weights clinked, but the sounds were muted, deliberate. Each recruit moved with a new carefulness, as if the space itself had changed. Briggs lifted a barbell. His hands shook for a second before steadying. He exhaled, focused, then began his set in silence. No bravado, no performance. Just the work. Harrigan watched from the center of the floor. The hard edge in his eyes had eased, replaced by something closer to approval. He knew the lesson had landed not because they'd said the right words, but because they'd stopped saying anything at all. Outside, the hallway stretched quiet and endless. Miles Rooker was already 3 doors down, broom in hand, moving toward the next room as if nothing had happened. But inside Redwater Gym, everything had changed. The serpent and anchor remained on the board, crude and fading, but burning brighter in memory than any metal. And when the next class of recruits arrived, they'd see it. They'd ask, and Briggs would tell them not about mockery or phones, but about the janitor who moved like a ghost and carried history inked on his skin. Some legends don't need monuments. They only need witnesses,